everybody, welcome to our session on alumni. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I know it's been a long couple of days and we really appreciate you spending time with us. We're excited to show you our Alumni Network. That is my COVID hair. That's still me. I got a little tired of it after COVID and then just kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and here we are. And I feel like I'm younger up there, so I really don't want to change my picture. Anyway, enough of that. My name is Nancy Grace Starkeybaum. I'm the VP of Value Realization here at Phenom. I have been here for 5 years, fell in love with the technology, sent Mahi a note and said, hey, I just really want to come and work for you guys because I love and believe in the technology, and here I am 5 years later. This is my friend Jeremy, who is...
Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy, product manager here at Phenom. I've been with the company for a little over a year and a half, and I'm super excited to do this presentation for you today.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right into it. Because this is a small crowd, feel free to interrupt us with questions. We won't hold them to the end. Anything that's interactive, I think at this time of day, is much more entertaining than us just chatting away. All right. So I have a question for you. Over the past, I have to come over here so I can read this. Over the past few years, how many of you have questioned shifting careers, lifestyles, etc.? Any? Okay. I know, during COVID, I was like, new house, new husband, new job, new vehicle. I got to have something new. Like a year and a half into it, I was desperate, so I got a new car. Actually, I got a pickup truck because I needed to be really different. So how many of you have actually done it, shifted one of those things? All right, a handful of you. Good, excellent. So this is what people in your company are thinking about. They're thinking, what can I do? Where can I go next? And they often look for jobs within your organization. If they can't find that, then they may want to leave and go somewhere else. In fact, here's some key metrics for you. 38 million people in the workforce quit their jobs voluntarily in the last while, and 15.4 million were laid off. 72% of those who've left would return if they could, and 23% regret having left. Those are some pretty big numbers, and I think a lot of this in the pandemic was driven certainly in industries where there were massive layoffs because we couldn't all go out and eat in restaurants, travel, go stay in hotels, things like that. For those of you that have shifted your life, how many of you, especially if you've done this in the job arena, let's not talk about if you left your spouse or boyfriend or partner, but in the job arena, how many of you would return to a previous employer if you could? Any of you? A couple of you? Okay, awesome. We think that there's a lot of people out there who would love to come back to you if you've laid people off or if they've exited your organization. My mom used to say, the grass is not always greener on the other side. You don't really need those jeans or whatever it was that I wanted at the time. But now I appreciate this when it comes to work when you leave a great employer. Right. So 5.4%, this is another stat for you, of previous workers who left actually have come back. And we have some Boomerang employees at Phenom, and it's amazing having them back because they integrate in so quickly to the culture. They're up to speed much faster than people who come cold. All right. So the way winning companies approach talent has fundamentally changed. I remember early in my career, old school thinking was, well, if somebody left your company, we don't want them to come back ever. They made a decision to leave us. That has radically changed in the last couple of years, where we're starting to recognize the value of that intellectual capital that comes with an alumni or a Boomerang employee. Talent acquisition teams have been caught in the last 3-4 years in this push-pull, right? Let's go fast, let's hire lots of people, let's get a lot done, then whoa, let's slow down and put on the brakes because the economy's changed, there's a war in Europe, stuff is happening, there's COVID. We've been pulled all over the place. So we've also learned because it's not just talent acquisition teams that are tired of the push and pull and the back and forth, but candidates are tired of it too. In fact, we're all tired. I think we're all mentally exhausted. Candidates will walk away if you don't respect their time. They're not going to spend time filling out your applications. And so alumni are a great way to bring them back into the fold without having to go through that lengthy process. And they're less likely to walk away through that interview process or application because they know what's waiting for them on the other side. So let's talk about our approach. Our approach is a Phenom Alumni Network, and I always wish that I had this, especially when I think of special use cases. I used to work for one of Canada's largest retailers, and we did seasonal hiring at our stores. Seasonal hiring was crazy. I had spreadsheets where I kept track of all the seasonal hires that left us, and then I would reach out to them by phone on my own, one at a time, to bring them back. Any of you in that situation? Yeah, painful. So our Phenom Alumni Network is a solution to combat to make this much easier for you. You can support them, you can engage and nurture them, and you can bring them back when it's time. So, Jeremy, let's talk about use cases. And by the way, Jeremy was the original product owner of Alumni Network, so he is our in-house resident expert on all things technically associated with alumni networks.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, thank you very much, Nancy, for running through that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the use cases for alumni. One of the ones that Nancy already brought up is seasonal shifts and holiday hiring. This is extremely important. For those of you who have frontline roles, maybe it's for retail stores, something like that, where there's a Christmas boom and you need to hire a ton of people every December just to fill those roles. The alumni portal will allow you to actually retain those high-level employees, those ones that were extreme performers for you during that first Christmas, and when that next Christmas comes around, they can log right back in. You can reach out to them with campaigns, and you can bring those people back and fill those shifts. We also have involuntary leave, so if you do a reduction in force, you may not necessarily be going person by person and deciding whether you want to hire or retain or fire this person. And in that case, you may lose some of your top performers or potential top performers. And so with the alumni portal, you have the ability to have those top performers, that high-level talent, come back in and apply to those jobs and ensure that there's a spot for them. We also have, one more. We also have voluntary leave quitting, very similar to involuntary leave, where you want to make sure that your top talent feels like they still have a place at your company. Even if they leave, maybe they won't like that next job. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the demo. Maybe they won't like that next job and they'll want to come back to your company. So you want to make sure you want to make sure that you have a place for them.
I am so sorry. Okay, sticks now, you can put it back on. Yeah, I have bronchitis. It's a family curse, and being a woman of a certain age, I get hot and then it's just, I'm a hot mess. So apologies for that ear-shattering event that happened. Sorry, Jeremy.
No worries.
All right, so all kidding aside, let's talk about the ROI from a talent acquisition perspective. So we can increase hiring manager satisfaction when we bring back somebody who, especially if they were a high potential and they left for another opportunity and they're coming back with additional skills. We can increase external referrals by asking our alumni, even if they're not interested in coming back, they may know somebody who would be a great fit for their former employer, and we can ask them for those referrals. We can decrease time to hire, and we can increase our ability to hire much more effectively. Over to you.
Awesome, absolutely. And then from the talent management side of things, you're decreasing your onboarding time for new hires because they previously worked at the company, which is a huge benefit. You're increasing your company culture perception, not just for candidates, but for your employees. They will understand that you value them. You'll want them to stay in contact with your company, stay involved with events, etc. And so you're increasing your company culture that way. You also have the ability to stay in contact with all of these alumni. So you can reach out to them, share your news, any fireside chats, anything like that. And then you're just in general, this is a copy of the second one, your company perception, your company culture perception is elevated.
Awesome. So now we're going to show you the platform. And while Jeremy's getting that ready, I really want to talk to you a little bit about why you might want to engage with your alumni or how you might do that. Because it took me a while to think through that use case. But imagine that you have data scientists, a lot of data scientists, and of course they turn over. If you've got 20%, 25%, 18% attrition, you're losing those data scientists. And imagine that all of a sudden you have a new project, you have a new division, but you need to hire a lot of them back. And you've hired a new leader who's a thought leader in the space for data scientists. How cool would it be to have that thought leader do an event for those alumni who are data scientists? so that you can try and pull them back in the fold and help them understand why coming back to your organization would be amazing for their career to work under a known thought leader in the space.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. So before I start clicking on things, I want to go through sort of a storyline for you. So we're going to talk about Jeremy. Jeremy is an employee at Phenom. He's been there for about 2 years now, and he's working super hard and doing great stuff. He's up for a promotion, and unfortunately, Nancy gets the promotion instead. Jeremy feels disappointed. So he actually goes and resigns, and he finds a new job. Now, a few days after he resigns, he receives an email from Phenom inviting him to join the alumni portal. He completely ignores it. Then, a couple of days later, he's not feeling so great about his new job. He receives another email from Phenom inviting him to join the alumni portal. This time, he clicks on it, and he just wants to see what's all this about. So he goes, and he creates his password, and he logs in for the very first time. Now, because Jeremy worked at Phenom, and Phenom has the employee experience, Jeremy's profile and all of the information associated with that profile is automatically ported over into his alumni profile. So when he logs in here for the very first time, he sees personalized job recommendations. However, Jeremy is not ready to apply for a job at Phenom. He doesn't hate his new job that much yet. What he does see is this referrals functionality. And he knows that one of his close buddies, Mike, was just laid off. And so he's going to go ahead in here and see if there's any jobs that may match Mike's capabilities. And would you know it, Mike is a website developer. He even has his own side gig creating websites for small businesses. So Jeremy goes ahead and he refers Mike to this position. Jeremy can track Mike's referral status to see if he's been hired. You could also reach out to Mike directly and see how things are going. So Jeremy then feels like he's done enough. He logs out for the day, and then a few days pass, and Jeremy sees an email coming in from a talent marketer at Phenom. And that email was an invitation to an event. It's an alumni dinner. And so Jeremy is super excited for this alumni dinner. He goes and registers for the event. He goes out to the event. It's a Friday night, and he sees Nancy there. Super fun, great event. He meets a lot of people, and Nancy actually says that there's a job opening that she thinks would be great for him. So Jeremy says, okay, I'm at an event. I'm not going to apply to a job right here. That's crazy talk. But he goes home with that in mind. Now, a few days go by, and Jeremy's not feeling so great about his new job. Kind of hates it. So he goes into the alumni portal, and right off the bat, when he hits that homepage, he sees the personalized job recommendations. He sees one that he thinks would fit him, and he goes and applies to that job. Now, from the Phenom perspective, as soon as Jeremy applies to that job, a recruiter at Phenom who's associated with that job will receive a notification that there's a new application. And that recruiter will see that the application is from an alumni. She'll reach out to people at Phenom and start talking to them to understand a little bit more about Jeremy and his experience. And she will come to find that Jeremy is great and he's the perfect guy for the role. So they'll go ahead and hire Jeremy, and in doing so, they've avoided a ton of work with marketing that specific role. They've avoided a ton of time spent onboarding a new employee, and they've been able to retain top talent.
And when you're thinking about your business case for alumni, we know that it costs about 1/3 in terms of onboarding and training to bring back an alumni or a previous employee than it does to hire somebody brand new. And we know that those costs of onboarding and training a new employee can be anywhere from 30, 50 to 100% of their base salary, depending on the position and how long it takes for them to get up to speed.
Awesome, thank you.
So what Jeremy is showing you here is that search and everything in the Alumni Network functions the way you're used to seeing that intelligent search with your Phenom career site. So we make it super easy for alumni to find their next job. You can also do events just like you would do on your external career site. You can do events for alumni. There may be times when you want to do an alumni event. We talked about one use case. Another use case may be if you have new grads who come and start a program and then a couple years later leave. We talked about the seasonal hiring. If you wanted to do a seasonal hiring event, so you've kept track of all those alumni who left and you want to bring them back and have a kickoff event or a hiring event, it's easy to invite them through this.
Go back to the slides.
So let's talk about why we've developed this and why it might be of interest to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing here is there are limited market options. There are some point solutions for alumni, some okay solutions, but none of them are connected to the Phenom Talent Experience platform. So, just in general, they don't have all of the capabilities that Phenom has. The data doesn't flow through all of these different platforms intelligently. Then we have top talent targeting. So again, you want to make sure that you're able to identify and retain those top people who either quit or were part of a reduction in force or also were part of a seasonal hiring. Additionally, we have CRM tagging, and this is the super awesome functionality that gives your talent marketers the ability to communicate directly with alumni. So they can reach out to alumni directly. They can also create specific lists to target top talent, to target specific segments of alumni. Maybe they're looking for people who would be great for teacher roles or cash register people, something like that. We also have a ton of best practices. Throughout all of our implementations of alumni, we've gathered best practices. And so if you guys are ready to start your alumni experience, then we'll be able to share those best practices with you from the get-go. And lastly, but not least, just the breadth of data that Phenom has. You've been hearing this repeatedly over and over. Phenom has gathered a ton of data over the last 12 years. We haven't just gathered it, we've done intelligent insights and put together an incredible talent experience.
Okay, this is an example of a customer of ours who's in the hospitality and entertainment industry who had some amazing results with the Alumni Network. They had over 33,000 alumni visits to their site. They had 900 internal applications and hired 423 of their positions with alumni. It was a great news story, and they are continuing to develop that program as they're in an organization that has or an industry that traditionally has high turnover. This is what they said about our alumni network. Our alumni portal has been an unbelievable resource. Not only has it been very effective in communicating with our employees, but we know there's going to be a lot of great future possibilities as well. And if you work in retail or in hospitality, you know that it is very easy for somebody to have a shitty day at your organization, walk out the door and go down the street and apply and get a job someplace else. When I worked for our retailer, our position where we had a lot of alumni was merchandising. I'm from Toronto, and in the city of Toronto, there is a limited number of merchandisers, and they just kind of rotate from company to company to company. And we value them because every time they rotate to another company, they pick up experience and knowledge, and it makes them more valuable to us. So that's a use case where we would use alumni. Let's talk about this one. This is Bright Horizons. So Bright Horizons is a customer near and dear to my heart. I've done some work with them. They operate education centers for kids, daycare, preschool. And so they hire teachers. And they have a high turnover in their early education because, I don't know about you, but after I spent a few days with my children when they were small, I was ready to move on to something else for a while. So they are very keenly interested in staying in touch with their alumni to bring them back into the organization, and it's been very good for them. They have started a campaign. They're getting great results from those campaigns and getting some conversion rates. And they are bringing them back into their organization, which is amazing.
Awesome.
All right. So, make every talent moment phenomenal. We have gone through this at lightning speed because you've all been very quiet So, questions? Back on the lights again. Yes.
We are a Phenom client, and we currently have an alumni page on our career site, and have been back and forth on the whole portal because we don't want to miss people, because they would have to log in. Can you talk about, how you kind of increase adoption or what you keep outside the alumni portal versus inside?
Yeah, so for me, having an alumni page is a great way in case they miss those emails or in case you don't have their home address or their personal email address. So having an alumni landing page is important. You can direct them through that page back into the alumni portal by asking them to drop off their email address so you can send them the link so they can log in. I think that when they are in the alumni portal, you're able to personalize that experience faster and you're able to make them feel special, because getting employees to come back is all about making them feel more special and welcomed than if they were an external employee. You want to give them that differentiated experience.
Yeah, I would just quickly add on to that. That is also one of our best practices. We definitely want to make sure that the link to sign up for the alumni portal is directly on your external career sites. That drives a huge amount of traffic. And we additionally find that those employees who do sign up and opt in to join the alumni portal are more open to receiving information about events and in other campaigns.
Yeah, how do you validate if someone's a real employee?
Yeah, absolutely. So we connect directly with employee feeds. There's a few different configurations to set this up, but we'll just take an example of a Workday employee feed. So there are a couple of different fields specifically that we're looking at. One is the personal email address of the employee/alumni, and the other is the active/inactive status. And that tells us if the user is an employee or not. So we watch that employee feed, and as soon as the employee feed status turns from active to inactive, we get ready to trigger that email to the personal email address. So that's how we validate with the automatic approval process. We also have a few different ways that you can upload lists of your previous alumni to trigger emails directly. We have manual approval processes as well. So if you have some people at your company who you would want to be able to manually check and validate each alumni who's logging in, you could do that as well.
I'm just curious because let's say I'm Sally Smith, 5 years later, I decide I want to come back, but now I'm Sally Jones. I changed my email address. I know I'm throwing you a curveball.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think realistically, there are some people that will be,
Yep.
especially in civil engineering, where I am. They may go and work on another project for 3 to 5 years, and then when they're ready to start a new project and come back, things could change, it could be a different part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're not able to validate someone through their email or through our automated process, we do have the ability to fall back to the manual approval process. And so what would happen in that instance is one of the people at Phenom or whatever the customer company is would be able to go in and view that person's resume or information and validate it against any profiles that they have in their ATS, HCM, et cetera. And that would be the way to validate.
Okay, awesome.
So this is really the leading geared towards the regrettable turnover type thing. You want to get back to the regrettable turnover. What happens with what we're sending over so your inactive versus active status when you have those determinations that you don't want to have? You don't want to be going out to those people and saying, hey, come apply for a job because they have violated policies.
Yeah. Yeah, mass murderer, yeah. Yeah, the bad people. Yeah, I agree. We definitely don't want them back.
So those mass murderers, they would be categorized as not in good standing. So let's take the example of the Workday employee feed. There's a field there you could have called in good standing, and we could additionally use that field and just incorporate it. Yeah.
So you can fill out in the portal, but they wouldn't set up for they wouldn't be getting in the
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, and they would not be able to join as well. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Say it again?
Or just not extend an invitation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And then we just said, no, thank you, we don't want you back.
We've all had those people. Yep.
Yeah.
So two things. I think we actually have another use case we should probably promote as well. Like we for myself and my organization of early talent programs. Yes. Internships, co-ops,
Yeah.
along those lines. We have two great connector tools for that. Probably need the first thing to do. But along with the previous question, you have high potential talent. They left the whole organization. Is there any way to identify in this system that is somebody that you want to match to future roles at the organization and kind of map that?
Yeah, so there are definitely a few ways you can do that. All alumni are tagged directly in the CRM, so you could build projects and lists directly tailored to specific roles. You could create funnels around alumni. There's different ways you could work around that. If you have specific questions like around setting those up, we can definitely help you out.
Yeah. I think you had a question in the back? Yeah.
Yes, I have actually two questions you mentioned before in regards to setting up the event. Do you have any specific best practices or tips in regards to kind of differentiating between an event that might be the alumni network versus just the regular event?
Yeah, so I think for your alumni event, you really have to have a purpose that's related to either staying in touch and learning about what's going on in the company or coming back to the company for jobs. So when I think of alumni events, I might think of senior talent, executives, directors and above that left, and around investor relationships or changes in leadership or somebody new coming into the company and hosting an alumni event for them. So that is a small group of people that you might want to nurture and bring back, like my example with the merchandisers. The other example would be when you have jobs. So if you think about what's happened in the hospitality industry, where they've lost a lot of people through the pandemic because they were laying off and now they want to bring them back, having that event to share with them what the jobs are going to look like, what the culture is going to look like post an event, and why they would want to come back is another good one. The other use case that I would think of for events is if you, in your industry with a particular job family, let's say that education or tuition reimbursement or something like that is important. If you haven't had it and you're now going to offer it, you might want to have a targeted event to talk about and share that new practice or that new change in a significant event or a significant benefit to that particular group or cohort of former employees.
Yeah, and to add on to that, when you're creating events in our CRM, you can select and make sure that the events are created specifically for alumni or include alumni. So there's ways that you can set up the events to segment out those cohorts.
Yeah.
I know there's a drop down when there's like choosing things with setting up the event altogether and then like subtopics or like the stuff. So I know that there's an option there for live chat. I haven't seen one for alumni, so I don't know if there's any like specific creating an event for alumni.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about that after this. Yeah, so when you purchase the alumni portal, that's when that would get turned on in the CRM. It's not there by default for non-alumni customers.
I also just wanted to ask another question.
Sure.
Once the person is hired, the actual portal, do they remain in the portal, or if you have like the internal employee side, are they automatically switched there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so as soon as they become an employee again, they're removed from the alumni portal, and on the employee experience site, they're just added right back. We'll see them as active again in the employee feed.
Awesome. You had a question?
Yes, some of your competitors in the alumni space offer the opportunity for alumni to network with each other on platforms. Is that something that you might offer as well?
Yeah, that is something we're building currently and should be out in the next few months.
It's one of those things, if you don't offer them the opportunity to network, they're just going to go do it someplace else. So you may as well bring it into the fold.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. You guys have been amazing. We appreciate you all so very much. I hope you enjoyed your 2 days at I Am Phenom. We're blown away by all of you having taken the time to spend it with us. And so thank you so much. If you are traveling home, take care, travel safely, and hopefully we'll see you again next year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.